Hi, everyone. For today's session, I thought I would take an example and work through the learner persona worksheet and the problem statement worksheet as well, just to give you an idea of how to approach it. Now, obviously, I haven't conducted interviews. So for my example, what I'm doing is I'm taking some student evaluations from a course that I have previously taught. And I'm going to look at those evaluations as feedback from the students, use that feedback to then populate the learner persona and the problem statement worksheets. Okay. So this is the feedback that I've received from the students. So what was the best or most useful part? So the creation of an online module. Okay. And the creation of an online module is the assignment itself. So that has worked well. And again, the same thing, designing my own website. And the last one is, it was also great to see students. Okay, so here what this person likes is student planning and getting feedback from students. So when I read this feedback, I'm getting two things that they liked. One is they like the assignment, and then they like the peer feedback that they received. Okay, so now I know this. I'm now going to look at what did not work, right? So what suggestions do you have for improving the course? So the first thing I see over here is difficulties navigating Canvas. Okay, and accessible links on Canvas site will help. So obviously it's navigations and the links that's a problem. The readings were manageable, so that's okay. All right, so here there is the videos. You may want to consider making them required. So there's a suggestion for how to change the course content. And again, the same thing, peer feedback and presentations were tremendously helpful. So that's just verifying the same thing. Now in this one, there's another suggestion for change, which is moving due dates to Saturday or Sunday and not a Friday night. Okay, so I've already got like 3 suggestions for improvement, right? I've got a time change that I want to do. Navigating Canvas needs to be simplified, and I need to make accessible links. Okay. Now, the last section here was any other comments and suggestions. Again, I have a lot just related to Canvas alone. So what do we have? Again, this one was, this whole section talks about navigation within the Canvas and having to go back out and come back in. So obviously that navigation is a problem, and Canvas made it difficult to upload assignments. All right. So now I have this student feedback that I've gone through. I've found out what has worked. I have found out what hasn't worked. Okay, so now let's take a look at the first part of it, which is the learner persona worksheet, right? Now in this worksheet, if I were to fill this out, learner characteristics. Now for you, when you're filling out this learner characteristics, think of the learners who have taken that course, okay, that you're redesigning, or the learners that you interviewed. And that's generally what you're going to put in over here. So for me, for the feedback that I received, I would say that their age is from 25 to 65. That was the age range. Gender, profession, these were all, for me, they were healthcare professionals. And if you want any other information, you can give that information as well. So now remember, when you're designing a course site or anything, the more information you know about your user, the better you can design your course site. So one thing I always like to think about is technology competency. So what is their technology competency level here? They are fairly comfortable with technology, but will need support for the platform. So when I make a note that they will need support for the platform, when I'm designing my module, I'm going to make sure that there are help resources available for that. Okay, now if you want, you can also add comments about language proficiency. Completely depends on who your group is, who your learner is. Okay, now big insights from students. What did you learn about the course that was unexpected or eye-opening? So for me, when I looked at that feedback, the submission day was surprising. And the other thing that I found surprising was, what else? The trouble they had with navigation. Okay, challenges or frustrations. Now notice, what are the big complaints over here? I could repeat the same thing because this is what I noticed, right? So these were the big challenges that they had. And so I'm making a note of that over here. Insightful student comments. So in this section, what I would do is I would just go back here and copy these kind of comments that they've already made, and I would directly paste it into my thing. And I can go back and say, readings don't have a convenient way to return to the module page. Okay, so I like this. I think it tells me a lot about the feedback, and so I'm going to put that in as well. So if you remember some of the things the people you've interviewed told you, use those quotations over here. If you can't, if you don't have direct quotations, it's okay. At least just make some notes on it. All right. Now, the goals, what was most important for learners to achieve in this course? What emotions and feelings were generated or lacking in the course? Okay, so for the course that I created, that I was looking at, the most important thing for them to achieve was to be able to create an online module. And I think they succeeded in that, and they liked it as well. So there were a lot of positive feelings for the module creation, and frustration with navigation. And obviously I haven't included what was it necessary. So the goal for the course was to create. What emotion was lacking in the course? Wouldn't say there was any emotion per se lacking in the course. From the feedback that I received, I can't say that. You might see that in the interviews that you've conducted. Now, remember, you've probably conducted interviews with learners. You might have also talked to the instructor. That's also helpful. But in this instance, you're focusing on the learner alone. So give me whatever information you can about the learner. And I'm not expecting you to write huge paragraphs. If you give it to me in bullet points, that's fine. But I would need a little bit more than the short forms that I have used over here. This is just for example purposes. All right, so that is the learner persona. Hopefully that's clear at this point. So after the learner persona, I go to the problem statement worksheet, right? So in the problem statement worksheet, there's going to be a lot of repetition over here, and don't worry about that. Yes, it is going to be repeated, okay? Because notice this learner issues, challenges, and frustrations are these. So you don't need to put anything over here, just focus on the design, these 5 sections over here, okay? All right. So what about the course structure itself? So for the course structure, the comment that I got was, oh, so I have to enable editing. Okay. So for me, the course structure, the comment was submission dates. That was the challenge, right? So that's on the course structure itself. For the content presentation, they had mentioned that they preferred more videos for the lectures. So that's the presenting the content itself. The learning activities, I didn't see any challenges in the feedback that I had received about the activities itself. Activities would be things like, the assignments that they're doing that would fall under learning activities. Interaction, there weren't challenges, but they did make positive comments on the peer interaction, right? So it's not a challenge, but it's something I want to keep in mind. Now, what about the assessment itself? Again, I could put in submission days for assessment, learning assessment. Now, if you remember, there was a lot of comment about the navigation itself, right? Now, the navigation could go into course structure because it's the course organization and layout. So you could put it in course structure or content presentation. It would work in both places because it's the navigation part of it. So those are the challenges, and I'm just breaking it up into these particular sections. If there were no challenges that anyone mentioned, then you can say that in these particular aspects, the course seems to be working the way you expect it to, and hence there's nothing to report over there. Okay, so now when we come to the problem statement itself, on the textbook that you have, I think it's chapter 8, page 140, you actually have a statement example over there. See, learner needs to do something because of something. This is one way of framing it. So my problem statement could be, learner needs to be able to navigate the course site easily because locating links and readings is currently difficult. Learner needs ability to submit assignments on the weekend because Fridays are difficult for working professionals. So you notice it's the same thing, but now I'm taking it and I'm putting it into this very specific framework of learner needs to be able to do what and why. And that's about it for the problem statement. Notice they're just statements, so you're just breaking it up and reframing it. Okay, now I did want to share another way that we do it at my current university. So what we do at my university is, like I was showing you, we get this student evaluation, right? And we read through it, but it doesn't stop over there. So every semester when we get this feedback, we are expected to complete something like this. So we have to say the most important student feedback, and then what is my action plan for the next time around, which is very similar to the problem statement that we wrote out. Okay, so what was the most important student feedback for me? These two were the most important pieces of feedback. Sometimes I've also included things that work well. Okay, and what is my action plan? My action plan was to change assignment submission days. This is the problem statement. I didn't frame it as learner needs to kind of thing, but it's an action item, right? I want to change assignment submission days. Okay. And the other action item is add navigation links. Another action item is record lecture videos. So this is also another way of doing the problem statement. Either works for me, but do what is easier for you. The idea is you're giving yourself notes on what is important and has to be addressed in the module that you're creating. And that's the key point that I want to point out over here. Okay, so hopefully this example shows you how you're translating what you heard in your interviews into these forms. And of course, if it's not working, if I think you could tweak it, we can always tweak it. And I think you've been getting really good feedback from your peers, and that's always helpful. So that's about it for today's recording. I'm going to stop my recording at this point.